Hello, precious plastic community. Today we are going to build the Blastic Scale, and we are going to start with an overview of the materials required for this build, starting with the tools. And so we will need soldering iron, also cheaper style than this will do. You've got to choose the right point for this build. That will be an average small one. Then we will need just a cheap multimeter, soldering wire, not the biggest one like this, but a more finer one will do better, like this style, that is like 0.5 millimeters. Then we'll need some flux. That is not mandatory, but it will help in hands. Wire stripper is optional too, or you can use scissors, but you will take longer. And this is for tooling also just a screwdriver or a power tool like that. And now let's take a look at the materials required. Just a quick note about tooling. If you can have a fume extractor while you're soldering, that's much better. Or you just try to open the window and not breathe those fumes, maybe with helping yourself with a ventilator. Most precious plastic workspaces that are active have a fume extractor. There are also very tiny ones from soldering work that are really inexpensive, so I recommend to use them. Then, so we move on to the actual material we are using for the build, starting from the boards. This is the Arduino 4 boards. There are also alternatives, since this is an open source project. This one is the original one that have an embossed heart here, and our board custom that you can have ordered like in small batches very inexpensively at the link that will be in the guide and linked in this video. Also, you will have to buy these very inexpensive boards, breakout boards for the load cell that work with the load sensors, and the SD card holder. With an SD card you can have also very inexpensive 64 megabytes SD card like this. Then we check the component that we will use. We are going to use some wire connector like this, the bigger one, also the smaller one you need. The smaller one are like this, and the bigger one are like this. Sizes will be also specified and linked. Now for the electronic components that we will have to solder, we have just three kind of them. There are the pins, will be the longer work. We will be using 1K resistors, have this color code, this brown, black, red and gold, and we will use these small capacitors that are 0.1 microfarad. It is also, everything is labeled down on the board if you need to remind yourself the size of the components. 1K ohm, and on the back side 0.1 microfarad capacitors. Let's move on with the rest of the components. These are an inexpensive wooden scale, just to use less plastic and take advantage of the wooden screwable back, but you can also use a repurposed home scale. And that's it for the materials. Let's move on to the build. Okay, we're starting the build, and I'm choosing the right size tip. The soldering fume extractor is on, and then we start to prepare our setup for the soldering work. And to do that, we will take advantage of the Arduino itself, just using its female pin base as a template, choosing the right amount of pins because they are not consequential. You have to take 5 of them, then the right amount here, and going to do this, just presenting the stuff and then cutting the scissors at the right point. Voila. And leaving the prepared pins in the right place, like that. Repeating that for the other side. Now I have this all in place for putting on the real board, and I'm going to solder on this, just helping myself with the Arduino as and start soldering, the actual soldering. And it's quite a repetitive job, but it's better to do it with precision. There is also a guide on how to check and do best with this kind of job, checking the right shape the soldering has, that I'm going to link here. And I'm just using some patafix to hold this because it is not holding the way I want. Just flush to the machine, because if it stays there, it jumps away, but I'm gonna stick it. And we start with the X cross pass pattern. Alright, some focus, better. Then let's go. Okay. And we can go on like that, one pin after another. And here we go. Main basic Arduino connection is done like that. Sorry for the out of focus camera. There's some reason why I don't know why it doesn't focus very well. But what is that? And I would like also to show you some optional. I'm gonna show you with the previous version board, but also in this new you can do that. If you solder this kind of female adapter and this kind of button, you can also have the option to power it on and off the Arduino when powered by the external barrel. But since we are going to mainly use the 5-volt USB powering I'm not going to solder now this optional thing. Okay, now we have successfully soldered the pins, and we can do things like that. That is using the shield property of the Arduino board, that is just plugging and unplugging an electronic PCB onto the original board that expands its capabilities, and in this case they form a whole new electronic device altogether. But we have to finish the board, and so we go on in soldering, and I recommend you to follow exactly this pattern of disorder of component soldering, because some steps are mandatory before others. If not, you cannot do other steps afterwards. So the order is to, now after the pins, that is the like a training soldering step, and also it's a convenient one. We pass on to the electronic components with the resistors and the capacitors. They are actually the components that are necessary to enable these buttons that are capacitive buttons. They're embedded in the PCB, making it also really economical and like responsive and very nice buttons to have on this kind of scale. So now we start to put the resistor onto their allocated places. They are marked with a silk screen that also reports 1K measure. You have a little issue with autofocus, but you can check it easily on the board, also on the drawings. And to do that, we just bend at an angle, at a steep angle, 90 angle, on the extreme of the resistor, and we kinda thread them, insert them in no particular order. So each side will do. I like to put these on top because they are also, when I'm using the finger on the buttons, they kinda make a reference for that. But you can also place it down if you like. This is the recommended and the method goes on with bending the legs of the resistor, just without any soldering. It's already holding in place, so I kinda go on weaving these on the board and then solder them all in one pass. I find my favorite method to do that is this. Sometimes they kinda bend not very good, and you have to pull from behind or adjust with your nail to get it flush. Don't get this thing that is not the ideal thing to solder. So I want to get my resistor back and adjust the little bend that has formed, trying to do it quickly. Take your time and avoid these things. Straighten the leg back, and now it should go well inside the holes. Just pulling from behind, having flush and straight, and bending my legs, resistor legs, and going on with the third button resistor, trying to bend it good to avoid the incident with, and inserting it. Let's go. I'm just kinda getting the same here, but I want to avoid pushing from up and pulling from behind. And my bending knee method to hold the thing in place. Going with the fourth resistor. Something to remove here from the leg. That will be cut anyway after soldering, but I want to have a good placement for the resistor. Okay, and now I bend the legs of my fourth resistor. This one I'll do later. Capacitor, that is, resistors are 1K, by the way, just want to repeat that. And I go on and methodically just put some flux on the soldering spot. This is not mandatory, just that helps a little bit. You can also use the flux pen, as I said. This one is a little bit more bulkier, difficult to use, but I have this, I'm using that. And now I go on and solder. Just try to take advantage as much as I can. So I use my third hand to fix it a little bit, so it will move less when I'm soldering. Trying to get the edge of the wire. Okay, got this. And I have my hot soldering iron already heaten up. I go for soldering. Just a little bit of cleaning before, because okay, this leg is a little bit in the way. And let's solder this. I want to clean my tip before, because this tip is a little bit dirty. This one is very good, better if with a little bit of water, but you can also do that very quickly. And now the solder is better, the tip is better. Doesn't have like an excess of soldering wire on it. And here we go. Oh. Okay, soldering already done, and I would like to cut the legs. Check this. I don't know why I have to focus from near. It's not so good now, the camera, but I know. Just you can check this. Pulling all this up and going on in cutting the excess. Okay, I want to quickly go on and solder the other electronic component. This is the capacitor. It's 0.1 microfarad, and its placement is here, and you can just insert it like that. Okay, here it is gone into, just like the resistor, it's all the way down into the hose, but is on the bottom, the actual component, and the legs of course are up. So holding it, I go for the legs and just bend it like we have done with the resistors. And let's go on a little bit of flux and go on in soldering. In a similar fashion, try not to bridge these two holes that are closed, otherwise you will have to clean up the bridge. That it could be a little bit tedious, but it's not so difficult to keep them separated, even if they are closer. And I'm going to clean up in the same way of the resistor. And now our buttons are electronically ready. I'm going on with some more advanced parts that are the boards. But because we have like some constraints of space on the board for these components, this one in particular has a specific method of inserting it and binding it on the board, and occupies a lot of space. I would like to do first another little part of the soldering, that is placing pins. This one is easy, it's the easiest one of the two, and it goes like that here, bottom side, because when we will have finished with this one, it will go like this, and so we don't want this to be upside, because it will interfere with the best placement of this. So we go downside, and we'll get also a better wiring when we use this, the bottom. You can choose to do this side or this side, and I will go this time for the inside style, just to have this time, because I think I will be cleaner having all the cables hooked up in the inside. Of course, if I place this in the outside, it will be easier for changes configuration and using the options we have about mounting. But we will go now with the cleanest one, and you have to select the 4 one on the right. You have to keep right, because this one is 4 pins and we have 5 holes. The square one will be left empty. So we place this. It's very handy to use the Patafix now, and we use it on the edge, because otherwise it will be quite hard to remove from the bottom once soldered. Now with this stays in place, and we easily can go with soldering, and so the heat will be sucked. Okay, and this is a good job. Let's try that with the smaller one. It doesn't work as good, but with a little bit of patience, with the smaller wire, you have to do a longer session but it is also doable. And now we will go on with these components that are the boards, starting with this one. It is easier, but kinda show the process of doing it. We will also need for that extra component that is in the bills of materials. Didn't show this earlier, forgot to. No, Yes, we have already used that. And we go for 4 and 5 pins, just like then the row of pins on the board, and we just count 4 and cut it, and then count 5 and cut them, and so this way we have our ready-made stuff. We've got to place the 5 with the taller pins inserted from the bottom and fix them with a little bit of Patafix as usual, making sure that they are like and now we go for the 4 pins that stays on top, also fixing them, and to have them compatible with the board, we place the board on top before soldering just the pins in the way I will show you. Pushing the board a little bit will make it stick to the Patafix as well, so we turn it, we fix with the third end, we go on with the same old procedure for soldering, turning on the fume extractor and soldering the pins that are coming up on the top of the board. Then expect a little bit your soldering that are free from bridge. If you want, you can make a inspection with the multimeter. Then we will solder the bottom side and the actual breakout board. Okay, and these are solder joints for this kind of board, and we can free all it up from the Patafix. Be also a little bit harder, but if you can take some object and free all up. And this board is on board. This breakout, the load cell amp is on board now. We're gonna go for the last breakout board, and this will finish our build. Okay, let's go with a little preparation for the board for soldering this one, because it needs it. We have just soldered the load cell board on the bottom. We got to trim a little bit of this. This can stay, and this. You can also choose not to do that, but you will have to kind of place this one a little bit higher, or protect the pins with something like this. But I prefer to trim them, though it is a little bit hard because they are thick. It's not just like cutting a wire, and so it will need some force to do it, and you have to go like that, pinching them one by one. Now they're coming. This one I expect to be thicker, but they are okay all the same. I'm going to trim everything now. I'm going to trim everything like a little bit neater if you want, but it's already done. And then I have to check that this one is upside down. I can control with the names of the pins that are written on the board, on the bottom and also on top, now covered with the scotch. And then I go down on the bigger plated holes, just from bottom up. I place this like that. I will have like some resistance here, and I start to bend a little bit, not all the way in, just enough that I can go all the way down also on the bottom. Working just like that, I can already solder on the bottom. I'll place it like this and solder the thing with the same procedure. Okay, these are already soldered, but I like to... That's good, it's good like that. Now you can finally push this thing all the way down, and this is the final position. The thing, and trim this. You could also have pushed a little bit more before, and I'm going to trim all the pins just like before. Okay, these one are tricky. I'm gonna leave this here and it's going away. I have now good access here, but I would like to show you can also bend them away and it will be good anyway. Let's check this. Nothing is interfering with it when I plug in the board, so you can leave them there. I'm gonna do that to show that an easier build is possible. And when I put the SD card in, my build is complete.